Hello. Well, this is going to be one of those slightly off kilter episodes. Once again, welcome to Awful October. This is part of my little run up to Halloween. And, we're doing it up big here in the Huck Hacienda. So tonight, whatever time you choose to watch this, um, I'm gonna be throwing something out on the floor. Just come fight me, whatever. You know, and try and knock my teeth out, but you better hurry. Uh, yeah, they're running. They're trying to run out of my mouth. Okay, so point of contention that just I'm sure there are folks out there who will agree with me. I'm sure there are folks out there who may not agree with me, but I'm sure there's a lot of folks because so whenever everyone does up their greatest horror movies of all time, it's funny how invariably, the one thing that just has me shaking my head and face palming every time is when The Shining tops the list. All right, objectively, it's a very well made movie. Not gonna argue. It's got its good points, it's got its bad points. I don't really care if I ever see it again personally. Uh, Probably the best thing about the movie for me these days is the opening credits. I like to sit there and just watch the little car travel while I listen to Wendy Carlos doing the Dies Irae music, which I think is beautiful. And but generally, other than that, I really don't care, and I don't feel like watching Jack Nicholson ham it up. I don't feel like watching the Scary Twins or any of that. Just kind of the stage in the game. It doesn't really do a hell of a lot for me. There are interesting things about it. It's production wise very well done. The mistreatment of Shelley Duvall on the set. You could kind of go on the whole thing with Kubrick and William Friedkin and a lot of other kind of unconventional, kind of results oriented directors, and say anything for a good shot, anything for good for good film. And I'll leave that to the directors and the actors to sort out themselves. Mostly I'm not a big cancel culture guy or anything like that, but still in all, Jesus Christ, go talk to Shelley's therapist. But that notwithstanding, yeah, Jack Nicholson, post 60s, the guy really just kind of chews up a lot of scenery, and and he's occasionally really great at it, and he's definitely doing a lot of scenery chewing here. Um, the rest of the cast is reasonably good. That little kid's phenomenal. Um, you know, Barry Dennen, Mr. Pontius Pilate, kind of popping up here and there, just for like the 2 minutes he appears in the movie, is kind of like, oh look, hey, it's Pontius Pilate, so it's kind of cool. But on the whole, I mean, kind of ponderous and whatnot. It just takes a while. You will see me go off later on this month about my hatred for the phrase slow burn. and I'm going to throw a few more at you. So, okay, one thing about, okay, so I had to come up with a list of, just one thing I saw thrown around a few years ago that I thought was really kind of neat was the whole greater than symbol in math, and, such and such greater than such and such. And, well, I want to kind of throw out to you, just kind of throw just as a topic of discussion. You can argue, you can agree, you can give me your list, but okay, movies that are kind of more or less contemporary to The Shining, and yet, let's say, within a margin of 10 years or so on either side, movies that are quote unquote contemporaries of The Shining that are maybe, at least in my opinion, better than The Shining. Okay, just try to keep it in the realm of, maybe kind of creepy atmospheric horror, that kind of thing, but not necessarily as I'd say not say just outright slashers or giallos or anything like that. So you want to see Last House on the left on well, you know what? Fuck it. Last House on the Left, taken it as it is, for just with the exception of, say, the tonal whiplash of the goofy humor with the police and all the yokel law enforcement and whatnot, more effective than The Shining. Sorry. Yeah, and I'm going to be saying sorry a lot because that's just the case. Okay, better example. Okay, better example of like a movie kind of in line with that. Burnt Offerings, greater than The Shining. Don't Look Now, greater than The Shining. A little closer to the actual timeline. I say, it's kind of not the same kind of movie. It kind of is. I'm just gonna say, I could very well say Suspiria greater than The Shining, but that's because, to be honest with you, coming at it from my perspective, guess what? Suspiria greater than everything. Okay? Gonna go there. If I were going to giallos, I would kind of go over from the Argento thing and say Tenebrae greater than The Shining, but yeah, I said I wasn't going to do that. Yeah, but I still put in Last House on the Left, didn't I? That's all right off the top of my head. I can't really think of any others to throw onto that list. I know probably kind of weird, with The Shining, one of the aspects that gets talked about a lot is adaptation, and Kubrick kind of deviates from the material in such a way that really put off a lot of fans of the book. And yeah, I read the book before I ever saw the movie, and so I was just kind of like, yeah, well, it kind of comes short in this and this and this department. Yeah, it does. How do I feel about, say the miniseries that came in the 90s? It has its good points. What's his name from Wings? Excellent actor, very good. Actually, chews way less scenery than Nicholson. The Dog Man. Yeah, it's not a bear; it's a dog. much better, much more effective, much more in line with the book, much scarier than the geek show that Kubrick throws at you. Um, hmm. Yeah, but Rebecca Mornay also, she's very good. That kid, good God, man. Ugh. Yeah, that the kid just didn't work for me. Yeah, let's kick a child actor, why don't we? But well, we'll get around to the Gamera movies and the Kennys eventually, right? But in all honesty, is it as good? No. Um, is it more of an accurate interpretation than Kubrick's version? Yeah. Yeah, in a lot of ways it is, but in a lot of ways, it's not necessarily as good as far as cinematography technique and whatnot. So, yeah, the Kubrick version has that going for it. Lastly, is that movie with Room 213 or 236 or whatever it is, wherever they change the name of the number to, the room number. Yeah, that silly ass documentary. It's just kind of riveting and pleasantly diverting in its own way, but man, it really kind of leaves you with your jaw on the ground, unless you're like a bigger Asperger's case than me, and you are actually the kind of person that really starts devoting all that time to like all the weird ins and outs of a movie. And man, some of these fucking people, it's like, man, do you have a life? Do you have anything going on in your life outside, your weird obsession with this aspect of this movie? It's kind of like the Calumet baking powder and whatnot. Come on. Um, there's one point of that I thought was kind of interesting, was the lady who had completely broken down the structure of the Overlook Hotel and the functionality of it, and the strangeness of it. And that was actually pretty cool. I think it didn't deviate from, it secretly meant this, and it secretly meant that, and it secretly meant the other thing. And it's kind of like, no, it's just someone who took kind of a curious look at, just a very obsessive look, but kind of a curious look at the way the set was structured to disorient the viewer and whatnot. And there may be something to that. But that's my deep dive. Yeah, I'm sure if I really spend a few hours racking my brains, I could hit you with more greater thans. Just uh, flicks of that age that are greater than The Shining. I don't know. Santa Claus versus the Martians. No, that's too old. Okay, that last one I'm just kind of throwing A for a joke. But anyway, just kind of a weird Halloween deviation there, which you'll be able to find on your YouTubes for good or ill. Uh, yeah, yeah, have fun with that or whatever you decide to do.